You and I are almost exactly the same age, and from the time when children were seen and not heard, but you made sure that you were heard. Mm-hmm. That's how you got your nickname, Badass Teeny B.
Yeah.
And you write that God had given my mother the most cautious, you said, most cautious woman I would ever know, a girl without fear. Mm-hmm. So where's Tiffany? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what resonated with me as well. My parents, my mom specifically, taught me how to respect my elders and everything, but she also gave me a voice. It's okay to question. It's okay to speak out if something wasn't right. My question to you, Miss Tina, was what gave you that fearlessness? What inspired you to want to speak out when things weren't right? Not just with yourself, but with people that you love as well.
Well, I think my fearlessness came from survival. You know, for someone to tell you, I'm going to break the evil spirit in you, and you just 5, like, I knew that if I didn't stand up to them, that they would just really abuse me.
Imagine you were 5 and a nun, all nun-like, says to you, I'm going to break the evil spirit in you, and you're 5. I mean,
vain. They used to always say, and I went home and asked my mom, I was like, what is vain? And she said, it's when you think you're cute. And I was like, oh, I'm never going to have anybody think that I think I'm cute. But I would say in my head, I would call them the B word in my head because I was a little cusser. And I would just think to myself, no, you're not, no, you're not, and stand up to them. I was just so stubborn. If you talk to anyone in my family, they will tell you how stubborn I was.
So your mother would tell you family stories under a pecan tree, which you say nourished your soul. And I love that whole section of the book so much. You write, a part of that was my mother making sure that I knew what an honor it was to be Black. You've been known to wear T-shirts that reads 100% Black, and you once declared, I'm the blackest woman you'll ever meet. Yumi in our audience has a question about that.
Hi, I was just really struck by that line of, I'm the blackest woman you'll ever meet, and just thought about not only the motherhood, but the themes of liberation. In fact, that line of Celestine set herself free and her family free. My mother walked out of a civil war in Liberia and actually resettled in Houston, was a seamstress, sewed all of our clothes. And I just thought about that idea of, when she was teaching you about how your value is tied to your service to others, and you wanted to fight that and talk about liberation. And my question is, what is your advice to Black women who are in spaces that are not designed for them or not designed for them to own those spaces? How do you encourage them to own the space and to liberate themselves?
Well, that's a great question. I've always preached to my daughters that you got to knock the doors down and that you should be at home at any space that you choose. And that was preached to them from the time they were younger because I wasn't given that. I wasn't given that message all the time from my mother, but what I did get from her is that it was an honor to be Black, that it was spicier, that it was, it was strong, it was the best, that our music was the best, and our cooking was the best, the way we walked, the way we dressed. My mom loved dressing, and that's such a great thing. My daddy and my mama were sharp. They didn't have any money, but they made sure they're sharp. Even if they had to get, Goodwills. I got Goodwill shoes my whole younger life because my mom would say, I'm finding you some Buster Browns. And
Y'all remember Buster Browns? Anybody old enough to know Buster Browns?
So I was always taught to be very, very proud of being Black.
Wow. And your maiden name is Beyonce. Mm-hmm. And so when your daughter was born, you decided that you would call her Beyonce because it was a way of passing it on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Because we didn't have a lot of boys. So I was like, the name is going to become extinct. So I named her Beyonce. Much to my dad, he was like, girl, that baby going to be really mad at you. because you naming her last name.
In Matriarch, you also share what it was like raising your daughters, Beyonce and Solange. And you did a beautiful job of letting us know what that was. And I think that what you did so beautifully also was you gave equal billing to both of them, right? And I know that was important to you, right?
Yes, it was very important to me to just highlight both of them because obviously, when I go on shows or I do anything, people, they like to talk about one of my children. And so I have to include all of them. Yeah, that was really, really important. It's a constant thing for me to have to fight for.
What's interesting is, though, that you could see from the very beginning, and all of those of you who are mothers know this is true, that none of the children are alike. They come into the world with their own thing, their own nature, and then there's the nurturing that you all give to them. And from the very beginning, they were so different, you tell us, in Matriarch. You all learned early on that when Beyonce was a baby, that she could only be soothed with music. And Solange was the opposite. She would be soothed by reading and other things, but Beyonce only responded to music. And you say that Beyonce loved the freedom of your family dynamic that it gave her, but
Yes.
Solange wanted something more practical and more structured. How did you figure that out?
Well, it was very obvious from the very beginning because Solange, one of my girlfriends, was very structured, very educated. Everything had to be a certain way. Her kids made straight A's, and Solange was very attracted to it. So she was always telling me I didn't measure up to Cheryl.
Yeah.
In no uncertain terms, and Beyonce loved the freedom of not having a structure. And Beyonce was very much like me because when I never enjoyed school. I don't ever have a good memory other than the talent shows or the Black History program or something that was creative or even home economics where I got to sew and do things. I'm that creative force. And I think for B, in her creative space, I think she was very much like me. So I could really relate to her because she could do the work if she wanted to, but she didn't want to. If she could have skipped school, she would have skipped school and just had her music career.
Oh, and yeah, there was that one time you skipped school, and Solange was very upset. You took the girls to the beach, and Solange was very upset because what kind of mother would let us skip school?
Right. She would say it all the time. She would say it to my friend Cheryl, and she would say it to the therapist, and the therapist is like, Solange needs structure. And I'm like, God, it's like I wasn't a good mom because I love for them to miss school and hang out with me. And my mama loved for me to miss school. She would say, your stomach hurt? Okay, you don't have to go. And so I know that wasn't the responsible thing. And she reminds me to this day of, she accepts it now, Solange does. But when she went to see the therapist, she was like, my mama is so irresponsible.